To call to order the Committee of the Whole meeting for April 8th. Starting off, we will ask for disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. You can declare it now or anytime during the meeting. And we have a delegation today. Mr. Coors Verhage is not speaking on Resolute's behalf. He's going to speak to us about an automobile event proposal.
Fabulous. Must have gone okay last time. You're letting me in twice. Fantastic. Oh, I got to click through. Okay. All right. So everyone got to learn from the paper when I arrived here about a year ago that I'm a car enthusiast. And one of the great opportunities I see for our town here is to better utilize the airport facility in a little different fashion. And I'm going to make a presentation today to share that concept. Scroll. Oh, there we go. Okay, touchy, but we'll make that work. Okay. My proposal is that up at the Atikokan Airport, I think a couple times a year we've got the opportunity to put on a autocross racing event. Now, a lot of people don't quite know what autocross racing is. They immediately go to, oh, drag racing. Here we go. Well, that's straight line stuff. Don't want anything to do with that. That's too dangerous. I'm going to present something else here today. So in the sport of autocross, that's a sport that's kind of gone under the radar very much so. It's actually been in place for over 60 years now. Happens all across North America in parking lots, airports, any facility that has a nice piece of asphalt and is willing to let a local car club use it. Now, some of the things that I really appreciate about the sport is, first of all, grassroots car racing. You can go out, have some fun on a very small budget, and let's face it, if we showed a round of hands here today, who drives a car? Can I see a round of hands? Okay, a few hands. Okay. Well, anyone who owns a car could come up and have fun at an event like that. The club putting it on would help you participate in a safe way. Now, talking about safe, in the business that I'm in, every day we focus on safety. Here is a great way for me to get out and enjoy my automobile in a safe fashion, pushing it to its absolute limits in a little bit of a competitive manner, I must say as well. And again, I have to come back to that inclusivity. It doesn't matter what you drive for a vehicle, as long as it's got 4 tires, is in good shape, and is a car, the club would love to have you come on up. So how it takes place is a course is set up with traffic cones, and one car goes out at a time. So the worst that can happen is that a car is going to run over a cone or two or three. But let's face it, if you're a competitor and you're serious about it, you're not going to want to hit a darn cone because every cone costs you 2 seconds. So you have to stay in control. Depending on the layout of the course, we're going to put in chicanes, bus stops, decreasing radius corners, slaloms, okay, all challenging the driving skills of the driver. And the course is generally set up so that it takes about 60 seconds for the average driver to complete. Boy, I'm going to get this direction of the mouse right yet. Okay. Safety is very important to whichever club's putting it on, and it always starts with a vehicle inspection. The club has certified folks that they've got a 20-point inspection they would do on your car on the morning of. They look over such things as brakes, your seat belt, if you have any leaks, those type of things. In this sport, there are mandatory helmets that have to be of a certain category. And again, it's one car at a time. If a car gets out of control, the driver's meeting teaches you that you put the clutch in, you push on the brake, and you'll come to a stop. And of course, the speed is controlled by the course elements. The person that designs the course is going to have enough changes in direction that the speed is generally about 60 kilometers an hour, but it can vary higher and lower through the different elements. So right now, I'm a member of the Thunder Bay Auto Sport Club. They've been putting on events through the Thunder Bay area for 50 years now. And they would be the first group that I would entertain to come on and do a trial event here for us. They've got the know-how, they've got the equipment set up, and could show us how an event could take place at that facility. Club like the Thunder Bay Auto Sports Club, they're always looking for that venue that provides a new challenge for its members. And I think we have that in the airport facility. If you look at the unique shape, that kind of an offset F design, there could be some really neat elements in play. So through a typical summer for them, they do events at the Thunder Bay Hospital, usually twice a year. They have several parking lots that they've set up agreements with. They go out to Terrace Bay Airport a couple times. And should this proposal be seen positive, maybe we'll be able to add the Atikokan Airport to that as well. Now, this group of racers, they run through the summer and the winter. And if you were to look them up, you'd see that they race right through the winter out on Lake Superior as well. So definitely a club that knows what they're doing. Now you might ask me, so how do we protect the facility? It's quite an investment sitting up there, and it's in great shape. Well, for the event to take place, the hosting club takes out insurance on the facility that would cover any damage that might occur. For the 15 years that I've been participating in the sport through BC, Alberta, and now here, I've not seen damage happen to a facility. Because like I said earlier, if a car gets out of control, it's clutch in, hit the brake, and you come to a stop. Some strict rules that a club puts on its participants: you cannot leave the course. In the event that two wheels were to leave the asphalt, that might be allowed once. If two wheels were to leave, the participants out of the event. It means they're not in control, and this is about driver skill. Driver skill is about staying within the course. All garbage must be contained. Again, I've run on previous airports in the past, and very, very critical that nothing is left behind at an airport facility. With the fuels that are in play, no smoking, no vaping, and again, through the inspection process, no vehicles may have any leaks. Nothing can be left on the asphalt afterwards. I got a picture up there, Stone Ridge Insurance. That's the insurance company that typically covers events like this. So, my pitch for the community, I think it's going to bring a very different visitor base to town. We've got some folks with a little bit of money. They're looking for entertainment, and they might not have come to Atikokan before. So when they come in for a 1 or 2 day event, they're going to be buying gas, food, hotels, and of course, over the course of the day, we find that we get residents coming up and checking out the event. Once you got the smell of the tires, you get the sound of the engines. If somebody's been up to the event once, normally we'll get 2 or 3 times the spectators at the next one. It gets pretty exciting. And we might just get our local club involved as well, and that could be additional events here. So what does the race day look like? Well, should we be allowed, the club would pull up in the morning, usually about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and they start laying out some cones. As the cars arrive between 8 and 9:30 in the morning, they line up. They need to park in the designated area. And then the inspectors get busy going over the vehicles, making sure that they're ready for the events of the day. Oh, okay, there we go. Once the cars are all set, usually it's about 10 o'clock in the morning, all the drivers are brought together, and the course official takes them through the rules of the day, reminding them of what's important and how they're going to conduct themselves. And then the folks go get in their cars and they follow the race order, and off they go, one at a time out onto the course. Come on. And then you get that noise happening, and you see some competitors having just a ton of fun, developing their driving skills. And you get a few spectators starting to get a little excited too. And of course, it is a timed event, so through the course of the day, each competitor usually has 6 to 9 runs out on the course, and the will be classified 1, 2, and 3 for each of the classes, and trophies are handed out at the end of the day. And of course, once we're done all that, you get out the brooms and you make sure that the facility is clean and ready to go. Okay, let's see here. Now, for any of you, if you had the opportunity to do a ride along with me, because this is a sport where you can hop in with a driver, you have to sign a waiver, you'll have a helmet, we'll strap you in, and off you go. Oh. And we don't want to play. Okay. Okay. Well, should we actually be able to watch the video here? I don't know how many of you know the movie Ford versus Ferrari. They get Mr. Ford in the car, and they hey go. And Mr. Ford is just screaming like a banshee. I'll guarantee whoever rides along with me, you won't be yelling quite as loud, but you'll be feeling the same way. It can be very exhilarating. Okay. And I guess this one isn't going to play for us either. But this is a quick commentary on the sport of solo racing. This is autocross is actually a form of solo too, which again is sanctioned by the SCCA across North America. So we're looking at a very local event. I would expect somewhere from 20 to 25 cars on an initial trial, and then it would only grow from there. Personally, that's what I hope to be doing right there. So, any questions? Oh, here we go. Okay, well, why don't we go around the table here?
I seen you chomping at the bit there.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
Oh, geez, thank you. Um, one question I have, why limit it to cars? Atacoken's 75% half tons. Why can't we race our half tons on the course?
Uh, that is a club decision because the cornering effect, um, vehicles that are too tall and top heavy might have a chance of a rollover. So according to the autocross rules, there's a book of cars that are allowed to enter. If you drive a Camry, you'd be okay. If you drive a Ford F-150, you wouldn't be able to enter.
What about a 63 Galaxy? Or, I mean, Impala?
Uh, then you'd be okay. Yeah,
Get beat by a Civic.
it just has to be a car. That's what we do.
And in addition, if you need help, I'm all over this.
Fantastic.
I'm all over it.
Fantastic.
Thank you. I think it's awesome, but the ambulance, the paramedic in me wants to know in regards to the airport, how quickly can that course be taken down in the event we would need a medevac?
Um, I would estimate within 10 minutes.
So it would be possible to, like, nothing would close the airport. It would just be we would have the race, and if in the event we need the runway, we can.
A plan could be made that
Perfect.
a number of volunteers would be assigned. You have this section and go toss the cones off.
Awesome.
Done.
Love it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Great to say we can pull the cones off the road, but that's not necessarily feasible with an air ambulance. They're going to want clear flight paths beforehand.
Okay, so our ambulance service is it a jet or is it a helicopter?
They have both. So this would limit us to rotary wings over at the helipad at the hospital, which they never seem to use. They only ever really use our airport. They only send fixed wings, it seems.
Okay, so we would just need to define the time frame that would be necessary and we'd make the appropriate plan. Worst case scenario, because at least for the Thunder Bay Club, when they arrive, they're going to have a small pull behind trailer that all the cones fit into anyways. So if a volunteer mass was to go out, stack the cones and put them in the trailer, maybe we're 20 minutes now. Probably either way, we would be quicker than the service could get out to us from Thunder Bay, for example.
For sure.
You betcha.
Sorry, can I just clarify? You're saying that in order to do the event, it would need to be shut down for the entire day. There couldn't be like a contingency plan in case.
That's what the NOTAM would have to be, is that there is an event taking place on the on the airstrip, and you'd have to get a hold of us beforehand, which
Oh, okay. So it's not that it's
up
shut.
to whether they do or they don't, because we've closed it for fueling, and we've had Orange absolutely lose their mind just over that. So
Okay. Thank you.
Sounds like something to work through.
So why would it be any different holding it in our airport and North Terrace Bay? They hold it every year. I mean, I don't see the never mind.
it could just be how they run their airport. It could be an abandoned airstrip. I'm not real familiar with what Terrace Bay has going on, but I know the problems that we face locally, and putting a NOTAM up that we're holding an event on the airstrip is going to cause some issues for sure. Don't get me wrong, big fan of motorsports. I'm actually trying to work with somebody to do, we're looking at a drag racing event, much quicker, tear up, tear down, a lot less opportunity to damage infrastructure that we have out there. Like we heard, put two wheels off the road and you get a warning, but put two wheels off the tarmac and you're taking one of my lights out. You put four wheels off and you're taking out a VASI, and that's going to fundamentally shut the airport down for quite a while before you can find somebody to fix that. Let alone hairpin turns right beside our fuel station, things like that.
Okay, some concerns to address. That's very fair. Thank you.
Yeah, it would have been great to maybe chat this one through before we got to this stage, but I'm sure we can work something out moving forward too.
Perfect.
demonstration.
Or which?
Or demonstration?
Or a demonstration?
Yeah, like the first event would be a demonstration that shows how it works, but be an actual race, but
Um, yes, they're interested to come to Atikokan. It's all a fun sport at any rate. So they're busy setting up their schedule for the year. Many of the other venues have been locked in, and in their schedule through the summer, they're looking for other opportunities. So the proposal here today is that we may or may not show interest here in Atikokan. I'm hoping we can, but we'll leave that for the group to look at. So typically the spectators are placed on a spot on the site that are out of the um, turning hazards of the course, and we would have yet to decide where the spectators would be. Yeah. So a piece of that would be to understand what the requirements of the site are, and if possibly spectators need to be kept off because it is a airport facility, then the club would have to work with that requirement.
Yeah, I'm getting a little ahead of myself on the logistics there, so they just,
Absolutely.
and yes, Tom.
Speak a little bit to that. Unfortunately, Graham's not here, but I've hosted enough events through Community Services Department that I know that Graham would require a safety plan, and that would be most likely addressed in that the evacuation process in the event of. This is all the things that we've had to do for the drive-in and all the different special events that we run.
Very typical process for the club to work through. Absolutely.
Councillor Martin, did you have something?
Yes, thanks, Mayor Ferguson. Thanks, it's a great presentation. And I think I'm on. Okay, I got to talk in the mic. Okay. Great presentation. It's nice. It's refreshing to see somebody coming up with some new ideas for the community. And you're obviously an enthusiast, and we need more people like you in our community. So thanks for coming here. And I may have to get a car for this, I'm thinking, but so they're going to have requirements, obviously, for washrooms and water and all these other things that we'll have to make sure that are available up at the site then.
All standard stuff, Gordon.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Fire department, the whole deal. So it's going to be, yeah, but it's really cool. It's a great idea, and maybe we can get some ice racing here in the winter too. So that'd be all right. Thank you for coming out.
Anybody else have anything? So what would be our next step going forward? I think by the feel of council, I think we're in favor of looking towards this. What would be our next step, of course, to work towards this?
Well, is there any particular group that the club would need to meet with to understand site requirements, to have site access for a tour, to develop the necessary plans?
Yeah, I think Tyler and Graham would probably. Graham's our public work, or Tyler's our public works director, and then our emergency measures fire department is Graham Warburton. So I think they would be, and probably Jason, and they would be the people that I think get on side. So and I know this isn't the first time anybody's done this, right? They've been doing this for a lot of years, so they can alleviate a lot of our concerns just by meeting and making sure that we're.
Yeah, absolutely. If we looked across Canada this summer, I'm just going to pick a number totally out of the air. There's probably 300 or 400 of these events going on across Canada.
Yes, Councillor Zacharias.
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. Can we get hospital and Orange input too, or would that be part of the process of going through all of this? That'd be great. Thank you.
Perfect.
So-
Thank you for your time.
Jason, do you,
I just say just to reach out to the administration and continue the conversation.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you very much.
great, next question. Anybody else have anything else for course? Great. Thank you very much for becoming a regular, and you always got good news for us, so thank you. Okay, moving on, we'll go to committee of the whole reports, and next, first up is financials for March 2020, no, that should be 2024, I imagine. Brandy?
So you see the report, the major variances are mainly insurance and just timing issues as to when things were purchased. So unless anybody has any questions about any particular line.
Anybody have a chance to look at that? There's nothing that jumps out at me on this. I went through it a few times the last couple of days. Okay, hearing nothing. Sorry, my screen is just. I can't move forward, Sue. Thank you. Okay, next is Public Works Airport Waste Management Annual Sewage Treatment Plant and Sewage Collection System Report. And I will turn that over to Tyler.
So this one's a little different than the water report. We don't necessarily have to adopt it and approve it by council. It was more just an informational thing for you guys. Happy to say it was a pretty good year out there. All the testing was well within the parameters, minus we had 2 exceedances for TSS, which is total suspended solids. Not really a big deal. It was more just based around some other work that we were doing. So everything looked great there. Probably had the lowest inflows in the last 10 years, and maybe further. That's just how far back the chart I was looking at went. We took the aeration tank and the clarifier out of service. We drained them and cleaned them, which has been a ongoing request from the ministry for a long time. So we finally got that done, and that's what directly kind of correlated into those TSS adverse results. So on top of that, we had no bypasses this year and just 2 overflows, one at the sewage treatment plant and one at the lift station by the hospital, both of which just due to heavy snow melt and heavy rainfalls concurrently. So good year all in all.
Any questions for Tyler? Yes, Councillor Johnson.
Am I permitted to ask a question about waste management other than what's on this report?
We don't have anything in there for waste management.
I'm sorry?
Oh, just for the report. That's coming next though.
As the landfill report is second. Are sewage treatment?
No, I want to ask a question about the new landfill.
Okay, that's next.
Okay, I'm sorry, I apologize.
All good. You said that was the lowest flows, Tyler. What do you contribute that to?
A lot of it's the work that we've been doing, patching up storm mains and sanitary mains, and just really making sure that we're trying to minimize that infiltration. It was a dry year also, so that certainly helped. But a lot of it's just that keeping the rainwater basically from getting into the SANI system.
Anybody else? Yes, Councillor Zacharias.
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. You said there were overflows. Is that what this 148% of capacity in April is? of
That was
2023?
one of the overflows. Yeah, I believe
Okay.
it was at that point, and then the other one, they were both. One was the 11th, and one was the 13th of April. So
So what does that look like when it's at 148% capacity? Like I have,
it means that plant's ripping,
okay,
doing
just
everything it can to keep
keep up. Okay. But nothing dangerous.
No.
Just,
And it's all like well within our ECA, like whatever steps that we take to make sure that we're doing it properly. It's all very documented and approved by the ministry.
okay. Thank you.
Anything else on the sewage treatment? Seeing nothing, we'll go to part two, annual landfall report and annual landfill report.
Yeah,
Tyler.
so same there again, nothing needed in terms of agreements or accepting it through bylaws. Basically just an informational thing. The big thing here is we brought ourselves up to about a 16.3% diversion rate, which is about a 4-time increase from historical averages that we've had. So that's pretty great. Financial impacts, again, just noted, we have some minor repairs on some of the monitoring wells to do. Just they're getting older. Need a couple small repairs, and then we need to finish up some work with the ministry about the contaminant attenuation zone for the transfer station.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. Tyler, what do you, your diversion rate, how do you calculate that? What do you use? Do you use just what the garbage truck hauls out, or do you take into consideration what the public brings out themselves?
Yeah, we do a survey of the landfill every year, so it gives you the exact volumetric change of what's been put into the cell, including cover, and then you make a educated presumption on how much cover material was in there, and then you compare that to everything that you've recycled or diverted from the landfill in general.
And my second question, is it possible to get the hours of the new landfill on a board right at the beginning of the pipeline road? Because on a couple of occasions, I've noticed people going on Saturday and they have to make that 8 kilometer run and the dump's closed.
So it's only 4 kilometers on pipeline, and I would think that if they're
Eight,
already,
because you got to come back.
yeah, but if they're already at the pipeline road, it's already a bit late. What we're thinking about doing is we're gonna list them at the transfer station, and then we'll have a sandwich board there too if the landfill's closed on a sporadic day that we didn't really plan for.
Okay.
And then again, it's always on the website, it's on Facebook, it's very out there, and we've been closed on Saturdays for like a year and a half now, so.
I just want to accommodate the people that aren't aware of it. Thank you.
Anything else for Tyler on the landfill? Now that we have a full-time attendant and changed the hours, it's pretty new, but how is that going so far?
Seems to be going great so far. We've managed to pull a lot of stuff out of the cell that shouldn't be getting in there, whether it's right at the point of contact with the attendant, or whether it's when that attendant goes and checks on the cell a couple times a day. So we pulled a lot of material out of there that shouldn't have been in there. So it's going good.
Okay, great. I think Councillor Johnson has a good point about getting that notice up sooner than later, because it's, we don't want to inconvenience
No, exactly. Exactly.
the public, so thanks. Great. And anything else on the landfill? Seeing nothing, we'll go to O'Brien Watermain replacement tender. And Tyler again.
Yeah, so same thing, got the report in front of you guys. I know we've discussed this project quite a bit over the few years it's been an option, so we got it out to tender. Results came in actually slightly lower than what I was expecting, so that's good news. Obviously that includes the water main and the paving for O'Brien, so that's why the cost is more than what was in my budget proposal this year, because we're not planning on paving this year, so a lot of that cost will be incurred next year.
Any questions on that?
Just one more note.
Oh yeah, sure.
I was rereading my report this morning and realized there was another option available to you guys, which would be to pick another one of the contractors if you don't want to go with P&I contracting, but I don't see why we wouldn't. So
I'll just chime in on that because I'm not familiar with PNI contracting. Uh, I imagine you did your due diligence on this, making this recommendation. As well, no, for no fault of anybody's, uh, the culvert issue has been a hard one. And I don't have an appetite for contractors learning how to do this on our project. So if you can give us confidence that things are going to go, I know you can't predict, but no red flags, no, they have recommendations, they have.
Yeah, again, this just closed a couple days ago, so none of the references are getting back to us. But they did just complete a very similar project for the city of Thunder Bay. Almost the same length, a little more storm sewer work, a little less water main, but again, right in that same ballpark. They got a handful of subcontractors in terms of paving and granular supply and all that kind of stuff. So it's seems like they're checking out, I guess is the best way to put that. I mean, obviously, Makinga at the second lowest bid is a little bit more well known in the industry for sure. So that's certainly something to consider. But as we've seen historically, if we don't take the lowest bidder, we just wind up in lawsuits anyways.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. I thought we had to take the lowest bid, so that's like I don't I think we got in trouble before by not doing this, right? So
Yeah, there's verbiage in the tenders that say we're not necessarily going to, but as we've learned through some of our past projects, that apparently doesn't mean a whole lot once you get into it.
okay, and the engineers have done the tender, so all our bases are covered here if there's delays.
We had our engineers do this one right from design through. We took a very thorough review of it, much more so than we normally do, just to try and make sure it's everything that we want. So a little bit more satisfied on that end of the engineering scope for sure.
And this is including the paving then, the resurfacing that'll happen.
So 7.7 does the water main and the paving. We've got a little bit of storm sewer work in there. Luckily it came in a fair bit under budget, so we're going to be able to do some more if we can keep that same budget allocation and actually get pretty close to, I don't want to say a full rebuild because that's not quite accurate, but getting close to changing most of what needs to get changed under there.
Can I ask another question? So this is from Mackenzie to the bottom of the Lone Pine Hill typically, or?
This is from Mackenzie up to Larson to the Y.
Okay, okay. And is it the assumption that you get all the in-ground stuff done this construction season and then the paving next season?
Yeah, we're going to push them to get it done by the end of this year. They do have the option to finish it up in the early spring though.
Okay.
If they run behind, or I mean, it's a big project. There's traffic control is going to be a nightmare for sure.
Yeah.
We're looking at some options to try and alleviate some of those stressors, but
well, all these race cars will be trying to get up to the airport.
Yeah, exactly. But no, you talk about a 2-kilometer project. I mean, it's a big project. There's going to be some unforeseen things that pop up. They always do, but we're going to do what we can to mitigate the ones we can expect anyways.
Thank you.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. Is it fair to ask who was the engineering company on this project?
Yeah, it was Crescent Engineering, our sort of in-house engineers, for lack of a better term. They do a lot of our engineering work.
So can they assure us that there's not going to be no surprises on this project like there is in the Mercury culvert, and nobody seems to want to own up to the responsibility of it?
You can't really guarantee no surprises on any projects, let alone ones of this size, unfortunately.
On a 3-month project, we're now into our 9th month. That's a lot of surprises.
Councillor Zacharias.
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. You said they recently completed a project in Thunder Bay of the same size. Was it like on time and on budget, relatively? Okay. What do you mean as far as you know? Can you
they
ask?
haven't answered us for references, so generally
Anybody
speaking,
sure?
though, if you're going to be putting down a project and giving us the gentleman's name and email address to
Yeah,
contact for a reference, you're not going to give somebody who's going to
complain.
be out too hard on one of those.
Fair. Okay. Thank you.
Tyler, is this curbs as well as paving?
There will be some curb work, yeah.
Anybody else have any comments? I've got a little apprehensive because we're going to be asked to approve this at the next meeting in an hour. And I would really like to wait till we get those references back. If they put references down. I know people have put me down for a reference before where I wouldn't necessarily be the best reference for them. So I would, until we have references, I have a hard time accepting this. And we have a budget meeting next week, and if we could put it off until they get back to us, it's a $7.7 million project. And if somebody wants the project or wants the contract, I think it would be in their best interest to give us the references.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not up to them to give us the references. They've provided us a reference list, and it's
Right.
up to those people to reply to our inquiry, which has not happened. So we can give it another 2 weeks and hope that for some reason they didn't get it done within the first few days for sure. And if we don't get references, would you rather us bring a recommendation for Makinga or?
I would, I don't know, I just, again, as my spiel at the start, you know, with what's gone, with what happened again, through nobody's not pointing any fingers. I'm just a little gun shy that I want to get the best contractor, the best use of the taxpayers' funds. So that's my feeling.
Certainly we all want the best person.
Yeah, yeah.
You might not necessarily always get that with the lowest bidder. Again, I can give you guys 3 references from Makinga, like just from projects I'd worked with them on. Bay City as well. I mean, they rebuilt Ruler Road. The difference is you're now not going with the lowest tender, which presents other problems.
Jason?
It's important to remember too, even if there was a reference that came back maybe not so glowing, there would have to be something quite significant for us to be able to justify not taking that lowest tender. So, you know, if one of the references came back and said, yeah, the job was done, but you know, they were 6 weeks late or something like that, you know, it would be tough for us to not still accept that lowest tender regarding that. My other concern is, and I just want to note that if council does want to delay the acceptance of the agreement, that will have a direct, I think, impact in that company starting to get the pipes ordered and get moving on that. So, you know, we've heard from you guys, and we know this project has to get started right away and has to get completed as soon as possible. The 2 week delay, you know, it will impact that as well, I guess.
Since it keeps coming up, we did get 3 or 5 astoundingly great references for our Mercury Culvert project, and as everybody's quick to point out, obviously that didn't go quite according to plan. So even great references don't get you that far.
Kidding.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jason.
But not to say we're not here to focus blame or you know talk about the specifics of the culvert, right? So I don't want the impression that you know the references are and whether they're good or bad references, you know, have a direct impact on that project, right? There's a lot more to it than that.
And my feeling is it's just, we're just being duly diligent, and if the references come back and, you know, as you said, things happen, but at least we're, you know, we're getting references, you know, we're not just rushed into this and making the decision. I just think it's worth the extra week or two to get some more information. That's all I'm feeling. Ms. Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. I gather there's not a lot of contractors that do in-ground sewer and water. Is that correct, Tyler? Like, yeah. So if P and I only did one job and McKinga does them all the time, I would, I would question that, but then you run,
One job.
okay.
That was the first one they listed in their like comparable ones, and then they had a lot of other very similar. Types.
Okay, great.
It's not like they're a one
Okay.
job company.
Okay,
Or
good, good. I was like, I might have read that wrong. Okay. So it's specialized work, obviously, and we're not gonna get a lot of people to pick from our contractors, so.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, McKinga is definitely a bigger hitter in this industry, for sure. But like I said, you wind up with those potential problems of not taking the low bidder. So again, I'm happy either way.
Brandy, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to speak legally and risk management wise. You always take the lowest tender unless they're in non-compliance. If they're compliant, you need to go with the lowest tender or you'll be paying both. You'll be sued, and we're currently in a lawsuit. So the only time to reject a tender is when they're in non-compliance.
Personally, and we can vote on this later if that's how we feel. Personally, I just like to take a step back and do our due diligence before we do anything, that's all. Again, it's on the agenda for the next meeting, and, as however council feels, we can move forward on that, but. Yes, Councilor McQuay.
I appreciate your sentiment, and I agree. However, if we have to take the lowest bidder, why are we going to waste time? Like if we have to take the lowest bidder, what is the point? Like what is going to change whether or not we get a reference or not? That's my question.
Yeah, we can vote and discuss how we feel. Again, I just on a $7.5 million project, I just don't want to rush. I appreciate getting going, and that's always a concern how long things take, and I know that I'm the one saying let's get going, and it's kind of contradicting myself to say let's take a step back, but that's just my feeling. So uh, we can have the discussion in the next meeting. So just going through your recommendation, you're recommending that PNI contracting that we enter an agreement.
Yeah, as the resolution to enter an agreement.
Okay.
Tenders have actually been what?
Okay. Great. Thanks. Oh, yes.
One final comment, just to kind of piggyback what Brandy said. So, and Tyler can correct me if I'm wrong, but Crescent has fully vetted the tenders, and P&I is in compliance with all of the parts of the tender.
Yep, fully compliant
Yeah.
tender, and just the fact that on a $700,000 job to be within about 400,000 between lowest to highest is actually pretty comforting. Even the culvert, I think we saw like a $4 million difference between low and high, so it's, at least some comfort. They know how to estimate properly at the very least.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Tyler. Okay, we'll move on to community services, pool filter replacement. Tom.
Okay, I think you've all had a chance to read my report to council. Essentially, this is just a very old piece of equipment that's broken and needs to be replaced. And so come to council. This was something that we had planned to do through the Trillium grant that I mentioned in the previous meeting that we applied for. However, it decided to die on us a little sooner. And so it needs replacing long before we're going to hear whether we're successful with the bid for the Trillium Foundation. You can see the three quotes. There's three components to it. There's the actual unit, the filter. Because we're not replacing it with the exact replacement, there'll be some plumbing that needs to be done, and then the installation costs as well. So that's a breakdown of the places where we can purchase something like this. And you can see my recommendation is to go to commercial. Not only is it the lowest, but they are who we've been working with for years, and they will hold our hand through this process.
Yes, Councillor Zacharias.
How much is the Trillium grant for?
Pardon me?
How much is the Trillium grant?
Well, it's bundled. I can't remember the total ask, but we've included multiple things inside of that. And I have spoken to Trillium Foundation for eligibility. They're aware that we are in a position that we have to replace it sooner. They've informed us that one of two things could happen. One, they could ask us to allocate that money that was originally budgeted for the sand filter to go something else in the pool, which would be very nice, or they'll just remove it. It will not affect the eligibility of our grant.
Okay, and where would the money come from if we did not get the grant?
You mean for this right here? This would be something we would have to budget this year for. It would be inside this year's budget. That's correct.
It's not,
It's not yet.
it's not in the, well, it is in the current budget, but it's fully funded in the current budget,
Okay.
hoping on the Trillium grant. So no, this would be in addition to the budget.
If we were declined for the grant.
Yeah,
No, either way.
either way, because this needs to be done now, and unfortunately, we will not hear on our application until sometime July and August. And we can't, obviously we can't. This is an important part of the sanitation system of the pool, so we can't wait. It's functional now, however, it, it's in jeopardy of completely shutting down. It's beyond its age. It's done well. We've been lucky. And then fortunately for us, the pool is open. We have good staff, and we have a plan in place until the sand filter further breaks down, and then we don't have a plan.
Then do we have the budget for this?
Well, it'll be in addition to the budget that I presented last budget meeting. So it'll be extra capital that would have to be added.
Oh, yes. No, go ahead, Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. Tom, I'm based on our track record with getting grants, I wouldn't hold our breath, but some of these costs that are going to be incurred to maintain these facilities, can the user fees be cranked up a little bit? And you know, I'm not going to just talk about the pool. I mean, the golf course, you need a new mower, and I think we probably historically have pretty low user fees for all of our recreation facilities, and I'm wondering if, you know, it's time to say, hey, that group is using the facility, maybe they should be offsetting some of the costs rather than put it all on the taxpayers of Atikokan, and that maybe, you know, I get sewer, water, snow removal, taxpayers fine, but some of this other stuff, you know, maybe it's time to look at those fees and start cranking them up a bit. Thank you.
Well, that's not part of the discussion. I can assure you that's happening.
Is anybody else? Because I've got something that's not really clear with me. So we've got it in the Trillium grant, and we know that we lost money on the FedNord grant because they said they don't fund projects that are already done or started. So we're asking for the money, but we can't wait. So they wouldn't give us the $54,000 in the grant if we already did it.
Correct. But they may allow us to use the money that we've asked inside the grant for something else necessary at the pool, as long as it's spent on the facility. They couldn't clarify whether that be the case because the adjudicators would make that call. This was just a consultant from the Trillium Foundation that informed me that for the rest of the material that we're asking for inside the grant wouldn't be in jeopardy.
Okay, that it seems like a win-win for the pool, because you'll get your sand filter and then you'll get another $54,000 to spend somewhere else.
That would be nice if that was if
Well,
that's what happened.
Yeah, it would be, yes.
Like all our recreation facilities, they're aging, and as you mentioned, Mayor, first and last time, we need to invest and not kick things down the road.
So when would this take place, Tom, if we approve this today?
We would work with commercial, and I believe they're talking 4 to 6 weeks delivery time and about a week installation time.
So that'll be done before the grant is decided.
Correct. Ideally, yes.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll go to number 2, change in service provider.
Well, what started out with a very good news story, getting the incline stair lift and making the upstairs at the Little Falls Recreation Center accessible, has become somewhat of a headache in terms of our stair lift breaking on a regular basis. And my experience with our current provider hasn't been satisfactory, and we would like to change our service provider to a company a little more, which I think would be more reliable. Um, we have a reference from the hospital. They use Otis, and they're very pleased with it. I've worked with one of the technicians, and he would be the person coming out of Dryden. They were very supportive in giving us information on how to fix the stair lift at the arena, which is operational.
Okay.
And in this circumstance, we would drop cone for all 3 of the facilities: the incline stair lift at the arena and Little Falls, and also at the elevator at the clinic.
Okay, so Otis would service all our equipment?
Oh, correct. Yeah. So what I'm looking here for today is basically permission from council to say, go ahead. We have a 6-month clause in our contract, notify Kone, and then we would bring an agreement to council to enter into an agreement with Otis at the next meeting.
Thanks. Any other comments from anybody? Yes, Councilor Martin.
Thanks, Tom. Mayor Ferguson, sorry, and Tom. Did I read that correct, that Coney has to send people from Winnipeg here to come and service this?
Yes, that's correct. And it's a 2-person technician. That's what they've informed us of the call out. And we would have a call out of Dryden with Otis with 1 person.
Nice.
And the technicians that came from Cone, our experience with them, that they were not confident working on the lift, whereas our experience with Otis, and they are very confident working on that lift.
Part 2 question. Did they say why it keeps breaking down? Is it like, I know I watched somebody putting one of those heavy wheelchairs on there, and it's a little bit rammy, and there's not a lot of finesse there trying to get it on the lift, and I wonder if it's damage or.
Well, I think this is speculation on my part. I think in the first instance, the reference was made that there was some vandalism to it, and in subsequent repairs by our current were not satisfactory. And so it was a mechanical breakdown based on, I don't want to say incompetence because I said it's a speculation. I don't feel as confident that if we were to bring them back and repair it, that we wouldn't be back here again.
Thank you.
Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. Tom, in your recommendation, it states that we will be paying 2 agreements simultaneously for 6 months. As that is the notice Cone requires for cancellation.
Correct.
Are they dictating to us how to cancel it? We have no say in it?
In our contract with Coney, if we're going to cancel it beyond the term of the contract, we need to provide them with 6 months notice. So we would continue to pay them for 6 months, the monthly fee, and you can see it's not substantial. We have a quote in front of us from Coney in terms of for them to come up and repair the stair lift at Little Falls. It is substantial. We would save money having Otis come in and repair it, as opposed to proceeding with Coney. So in the end, we'll save money.
Okay.
Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. So you could give Coney notice that 6 months were done, and in the meantime, when that thing breaks down, you call out Otis and
Correct.
get them to.
Correct.
Perfect.
Once we get into an agreement with Otis, we would not use Coney moving forward at all.
Thanks. Councilor Zacharias.
Do we have to run them at the same time?
Well, if we want the stair lift fixed, we do. And we really need to have that stair lift fixed.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to wait 6 more months. Or we could bring in Coney to repair it at a substantially higher cost, which would make no sense whatsoever. So it's not a substantial cost running the agreement simultaneous for 6 months compared to the cost savings of the getting Otis to repair the stair lift.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Thanks, Tom. And number 3, department update.
I think you probably all had a chance to read. I'm open to any questions you might have on the update. I would like to add, however, and I think that on the last portion of the grant, OPG has opened up a Building Stronger Communities grant program. It opened last week, and we are prepared to submit an application through their Stronger Community stream under that grant.
What would that grant?
One of the elements of that they indicated, a pillar for stronger communities is a water safety plan, and we would look into having a supervisor oversee our water safety in terms of the lessons, teaching our the kids to become guards, guards to become instructors, supervising the water safety program for boats, canoes, and all of those sorts of things. Something that we currently is being done by our staff, but could be done on a contract basis moving forward. A lot of things we're not doing that we could do with this position. It offers more than just 1 year.
And how much would that be, Tom?
We've asked for the $50,000 to $100,000 range grant. It's broken 50 to 100. It's broken into 3, and we would pick the 50 to 100,000.
Are we selling ourselves short by asking for that much, or should we be looking at more?
I think it'd be hard for me to substantiate the $100,000 or more. That's why we looked at the $50,000 to $100,000. That would cover off a contract for a position like that. But if council wants me to ask for more, then the grant hasn't been submitted yet. But if council would like me to ask for more, I'd be happy to do it.
You don't ask, you don't get. Anybody have any other? Councillor Zacharias?
I don't see it in your report, but I think during one of the men's tournaments there were some issues with the ice resurfacer. Have
Yes.
those all been rectified? Are there any major concerns, or were they all just kind of small?
No. It was comedy of errors. Both resurfacers have been repaired.
Mm-hmm. So any long-term concerns, or were they?
No, not at the moment.
Planning.
We have the old Zamboni that we store at Hemlock as backup, and it was serviced, so we were fortunate enough to, in the cover of darkness, bring the Zamboni to replace the Olympia, and the tournament went on uninterrupted. And they'll be both serviced again throughout the summer.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? I got one concern, Tom, is we have a lot of recreation facilities, and of course everything needs work and money. The answer to every problem is money. It seems like our grant requests are a little heavy on the pool side.
In this circumstance, it is. It was a little heavy on the arena side the last time when we did the retrofit for the arena, the complete ice resurface. Unfortunately, at the time, the pool wasn't looked in the same light, so a lot of the mechanical infrastructure was overlooked, and nothing's been done with that. This is catch-up time. The pump is very old. The sand filter is very old. Whereas if you look at, say, for instance, the ski hill, that's been retrofitted. The Pioneer Center, the new roof. It's just the pool's rotation to get some band-aids torn off and sutured up, if you will.
Yes, Councillor McQuay.
Thank you. Correct me if I'm wrong, where the pool is the second most used recreation facility in the town? Upwards of like 100 people a day?
That's accurate. I would say number 1 would be the golf course, but of course the pool is all year round.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, no, I understand that, and that was your predecessor made that abundantly clear that the people that go through the pool are a lot more than the people that went through the arena. I'm just saying that perception might be
No, I
that we
understand
are-
that, and
We are looking town-wide, not laser
no, I understand,
focused
and
on one area. That's
and I do take it personal, not in a defensive way. I do recognize my name is on a sign as you enter out of Koken for, my swimming accomplishments, but that has nothing to do with the issue that we are in dire need of repair for a very, very critical piece of our recreation infrastructure, our asset.
okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, that brings us to the end of our meeting. Do we have a, no? Okay. So we'll adjourn this meeting and we'll take a 5-minute break and come back for part 2.